Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are tearing into a frankly terrifying penetration test report. We're going to walk through a hypothetical 7-day attack against a target that we'll just call redacted.com. Think of this as the anatomy of a digital heist. But honestly, here's the biggest secret we're going to uncover today. Catastrophic, multi-million-dollar data breaches, they rarely require the crazy, complex, Hollywood-style hacking skills you see in the movies. So let's dive right in and see exactly how a modern digital heist actually goes down.
So think about this for a second. What if your absolute biggest cyber threat isn't some elite master hacker in a hoodie, but literally just an unlocked door? That's really the core premise of today's explainer. When we look at the raw data from this rigorous security assessment, we find that massive vulnerabilities usually don't stem from brilliant, unbreakable code suddenly being cracked. Nope. They stem from simple, everyday misconfigurations. They come from standard doors that someone, somewhere, just forgot to lock. All right, here is our blueprint for today. 1. The open house architecture. 2. Day 0, casing the joint. 3. Days 1 to 2, infiltration. 4. Days 3 to 6, exfiltration. 5. The multi-million-dollar fallout. And finally, number 6, how to lock the doors. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The open house architecture.
During the assessment, the penetration tester found 7 security-significant weak nodes and 4 structural backdoors exposed straight to the public internet. The testers actually assigned the target a collapse 1 metric. That essentially means single-hop access. It's like a giant house of cards. If just one piece falls, the whole system collapses. You see, in a mature security environment, if an attacker breaches some low-level development server, they hit an internal firewall. There's friction, right? But a collapse 1 metric means there is absolutely zero internal friction. Compromising just one of those weak nodes gives an attacker direct, unhindered access to the highly sensitive crown jewels.
The report's attack complexity analysis backs us up with a pretty terrifying conclusion. This is a trivial exploitation scenario. Seriously, it requires zero-day vulnerabilities, it requires no advanced persistent threat capabilities, it doesn't even need any sophisticated social engineering. The attacker is relying purely on passive reconnaissance and basic exploitation of missing security controls. That's it.
Section 2, Day 0, casing the joint.
Look at the speed of this timeline, because it's wild. At T0, automated scripts are already doing basic DNS enumeration. Barely 15 minutes in, the attacker is fingerprinting exposed services. By the 45-minute mark, they have entirely mapped the target's cloud infrastructure, neatly separating what's hosted on Azure versus AWS. And exactly 1 hour in, they've identified all the company's third-party integrations, stuff like HubSpot and Google Workspace. In under 60 minutes, the attacker has a complete, working blueprint of the target's weak architecture.
And what exactly did they find in that first hour? Well, an absolute goldmine. They found an exposed development server, a public Grafana dashboard, abandoned DNS records, and, this is the real kicker, no multi-factor authentication on critical tools like HubSpot and Google Workspace. Essentially, the vault doors were just left wide open by default.
Section 3, Days 1 to 2, Infiltration. Now, let's look at how they step right inside, starting with a subdomain takeover. Remember those abandoned or dangling DNS records we just mentioned? When a company cancels a third-party service but completely forgets to delete the DNS record pointing to it, it just dangles there. An attacker runs a basic automated script to find these. Once they do, they just create a free account with the cloud provider, say AWS, and claim that exact resource name. Boom! Instantly, they inherit the total trust of the redacted.com domain. They entirely bypass browser security policies known as cores. They didn't even hack anything. They literally just picked up a discarded set of keys off the sidewalk.
But the infiltration doesn't stop there. The attacker also zeroes in on the internal development and Grafana environments. Because that Grafana dashboard is completely missing basic access logging, the attacker can just brute force weak passwords all day long without setting off a single alarm. And once they're inside Grafana, which connects directly to internal databases to pull its metrics, the attacker can literally read the database connection strings and passwords in plain text. By the end of day 2, they have the keys to the kingdom right in their pocket.
Section 4, Days 3 to 6, Exfiltration. So because there's absolutely no internal friction, remember that collapse 1 metric, the attacker uses their freshly stolen credentials to just log right into the company's CRM and email systems. The scale of the loot they grab is catastrophic. We're talking approximately 50,000 merchant records packed with PII, or personally identifiable information, 200,000 customer transactional emails,
highly sensitive PCI cardholder data, including CVV numbers and transaction histories. And on top of all that, internal credentials and the company's proprietary source code.
So you're probably wondering, how did no one notice this happening? It comes down to one critical missing control: export monitoring. In a mature, healthy system, if an account suddenly downloads 10 gigabytes of highly sensitive CRM data out of nowhere, massive alarms go off. But here, those monitoring systems simply weren't turned on. The attacker exported a massive trove of sensitive data over several days, and they operated in total, complete silence. The company was totally blind to the heist happening right under their nose.
Section 5, the multi-million-dollar fallout.
Usually, breaches like this only get discovered later when a bank's fraud system flags an unusual pattern of stolen credit cards or a customer reports unauthorized charges. But once it's discovered, the reckoning is brutal. The company faces an immediate regulatory nightmare. Missing access logging and lack of multi-factor authentication aren't just oops moments, they are direct PCI DSS violations. This triggers mandatory, highly public legal notifications to all 50,000 merchants, those 200,000 customers, major payment networks like Visa and MasterCard, and potentially even state attorneys general.
And that nightmare comes with a staggering price tag. When you factor in the forensic audits, the mandatory credit monitoring for victims, the direct fines for non-compliance, which, by the way, can run up to $100,000 a month, and the massive reputational damage, the report estimates the total cost of this breach, $5 million to north of $20 million. Just let that sink in.
Let's put those numbers into perspective, because this is the real punchline. The estimated cost to implement the missing security controls, to just lock the doors we've been talking about, is between $50,000 and $150,000. The cost of failing to do so? Up to $20 million. You're quite literally looking at a 33x to 400x return on investment for simply turning on basic, foundational security controls before a disaster strikes.
Section 6, how to lock the doors.
So, here are the absolute crucial first steps to stop the bleeding. Notice exactly where the immediate priorities lie here: securing those SaaS integrations. Enabling multi-factor authentication on systems like HubSpot and Google Workspace is critical, because third-party SaaS tools are the #1 modern threat vector today. Next, you have to turn on access logging for internal tools like Grafana. Clean up your dangling DNS records so attackers can't hijack your domain trust. And finally, enforce strict credential rotation policies across your entire infrastructure, so that if a password is stolen, it doesn't live forever. Look, these aren't advanced next-gen AI strategies, they're just basic digital hygiene.
I want to leave you with this pretty chilling final thought straight from the penetration testing report. Every single day these basic controls remain missing is another day an attacker has completely frictionless access to your crown jewels. The question is not if this will happen, but when. So I'll challenge you with this. Look at your own organization today. How many unlocked doors are sitting perfectly visible to the open internet right now, just waiting for someone to turn the handle? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.